Welcome to this explainer. All right, we're going to jump right into the deep end here, straight into the chaotic, bloody melee of the Battle of Uhud. Dust is choking the air, the noise of clashing metal is absolutely deafening, and there's a desperate struggle for survival unfolding all around. And right there, in the very center of this savage conflict, we are going to witness a display of true, unmatched heroism from someone who completely shatters every expectation you might have. We are looking at the incredible life of Nusaybah bint Kaab, a woman widely known to history as the Shield of the Prophet.
12. That is the staggering number of devastating wounds Nusaybah took during just this one brutal hour of close-quarters combat at Uhud. The historical accounts tell us that she practically threw herself into the path of a massive Meccan warrior named Umm Ammarah. This is the very man, by the way, who would later falsely claim he had actually killed the Prophet. Now, when Umm Ammarah's sword came down, it struck Nusaybah's shoulder with so much force that the blade cut straight down to the bone, totally shattering her collarbone. She was bleeding, she was in unimaginable agony, and she had to be completely exhausted. But she absolutely refused to go down.
Despite taking injuries that would have dropped almost anyone else, she just kept striking back, willingly taking hits that were meant directly for the Prophet. Her absolute refusal to retreat actually prompted a legendary observation from Prophet Muhammad himself, which was later narrated by Umar al-Khattab. He noted that wherever he turned his head on that battlefield, left, right, it didn't matter, he saw Nusaybah fiercely defending him.
Section 1. The Shield at Uhud. So let's break down exactly how a woman in this era ended up acting as a literal human shield in the epicenter of a major battle. I mean, it wasn't an accident, and it for sure wasn't her original assignment for the day. Her presence there actually started in a very traditional, expected support role. She arrived at Uhud to provide water to the fighters and to tend to the wounded. But, wars are wildly unpredictable. When the tide of the battle suddenly flipped against the Muslims, panic set in. A lot of fighters started retreating, and the Prophet was suddenly left incredibly vulnerable. Seeing this happening, Nusaybah didn't hesitate. She dropped the water, grabbed a sword and a shield, and intercepted the oncoming attackers. In a split-second decision of pure devotion, she completely tossed aside the conventional gender roles of her time.
And that brings us to a really fascinating question, right? How does this even happen? How did a woman living in a deeply tribal, highly patriarchal society transform into a legendary, bloodied warrior going toe-to-toe with elite soldiers? Well, to truly understand how she got to this extraordinary moment at Uhud, we kind of have to pull back and look at where her incredible story actually began.
Section 2. Early life in Medina.
Let's rewind the clock a bit. Nusaybah was born in Yathrib, well before the advent of Islam. And this was a society where tribal affiliations and your family lineage meant literally everything. It was also a place where customs severely limited women's roles, keeping them almost entirely in the domestic sphere. But she did have a bit of an advantage. Her father, Kaab ibn Amr, was a highly respected figure in the community. Growing up in a prominent family like that likely afforded her certain privileges, maybe a level of education or opportunities that really laid the groundwork for the leader she was going to become. Then, when the message of Islam reached Yathrib, Nusaybah was among the very first wave of converts. And she didn't just quietly practice her new faith in the background, she embodied it through intense, practical, roll-up-your-sleeves kind of action. Acting as a pillar of charity, she transformed her own home into this bustling center for community support. She dedicated her time and resources to caring for the vulnerable muhajirun. These were the immigrants actively fleeing persecution in Mecca. And she made sure they had crucial food and shelter when they needed it the most.
Section 3. The Second Pledge. You see, her deep commitment to the faith was forged way before any physical battles or grand conflicts broke out. It happened during a highly secretive pact known as the historic Second Pledge of Aqabah. And the numbers here are pretty striking. Out of the 75 people who bravely stepped forward to make this monumental commitment with the Prophet right before his migration to Medina, Nusaybah was one of only 2 women standing there alongside 73 men. By taking this pledge, she wasn't just observing history, she was actively making it. It was a revolutionary vow. The pledge was a strict promise of ultimate protection and support for Prophet Muhammad. Nusaybah firmly believed that a woman had the exact same duty to defend this new religion as any man did. And honestly, it was this exact deep-seated conviction, formalized right here at Aqabah, that directly fueled her astonishing bravery years later on those bloody fields of Uhud.
Section 4. Wars and Personal Tragedy.
Now, you'd probably think surviving Uhud with 12 severe, bone-shattering wounds would be enough action for one lifetime. But Nusaybah's military and diplomatic contributions absolutely did not end when the dust settled there, not even close. She maintained a really consistent, powerful presence as the Muslim community grew. She was right there for the tense negotiations at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, venturing straight into potentially hostile territory. She was present at the Battle of Kaab, and even after the conquest of Mecca, she proved her martial skills yet again at the grueling Battle of Hunain against the Hawazin and Thaqif tribes. Her relentless dedication earned her profound reverence from future leaders. Men like Abu Bakr and Umar bin al-Khattab continually praised her immense courage.
But we really have to contrast her earlier battles with her later ones because there is a striking shift in tone. While her fighting at Uhud was inherently defensive, a desperate spur-of-the-moment reaction to protect the Prophet, her participation later on in the brutal Battle of Yamama was a deeply personal offensive war. This happened during the Wars of Apostasy under Abu Bakr's caliphate, and she actively requested permission to join the campaign against Musaylama the liar, a very dangerous false prophet who had put together a massive professional army in eastern Arabia. Because for Nusaybah, this wasn't just politics, it was agonizingly personal. Her son, Habib, had been captured and horrifically tortured to death by Musaylama's forces. So picture this. She is in her mid-50s now, she's a respected elder, and those old Uhud wounds are almost certainly aching. But she charges directly into the absolute savage combat of Yamama anyway. The fighting there is described by historians as catastrophic and incredibly bloody, and right in the middle of this hell, she witnesses her other son fall in combat. Screaming in grief, she charges the enemy, successfully killing the attacker. But in this furious, violent melee, she pays a devastating physical price, tragically losing her own hand in the process.
Section 5. An Enduring Legacy.
So what's the lasting impact of a life defined by such unmatched sacrifice, pain, and unyielding loyalty? Well, for centuries, classical Islamic scholars have continually cited Nusaybah bint Kaab as the ultimate exemplar. She is literally the reference point. Whenever discussions pop up about a woman's capacity for extreme bravery or their potential roles in defending a community, hers is the name that gets spoken. She fundamentally proved once and for all that true bravery, valor, and profound religious devotion know absolutely no gender.
Just look at the legacy she leaves behind. She completely shattered the conventional gender roles of pre-Islamic Arabia. By bleeding on those battlefields and surviving to teach others about it, she forcibly preserved women's narratives in a historical record that, let's be honest, often defaults to marginalizing them. Above all else, she's an icon who proved that faith isn't just a feeling you hold in your heart, it is something that translates directly into bold and sometimes terrifying action. She was a dedicated educator in Medina and a legendary warrior exactly when her people needed her to be.
Which leads me to this final thought. Nusaybah's incredible story was preserved. Her 12 wounds at Uhud, her severed hand at Yamama, her unwavering stance at Aqabah, they somehow survived the centuries. But knowing history's overwhelming tendency to erase or minimize the contributions of women, I'll leave you to ponder this incredible truth. How many other fierce, brilliant female warriors and leaders have been totally forgotten by time? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, always keep questioning the historical narratives you've been taught.